Okay, so I thought I'd do a quick video on Thresh's runes. I was starting a series about general rune guides, but since everyone's kind of probably covered that, not only in gameplay but just looking at what other people are building, what most people are doing is saying what runes their mains are good with, or just reviewing every single rune with their main. So to start this off, looking at Thresh, we're going to look at what you typically go on as a support. So let's start with the Resolve Tree. So in support, Aftershock, surprise surprise, is really damn good, because that's a lot of armor and magic resistance to get you a lot tankier in the early game. Since Thresh has gotten his base armor buffed to an almost normal level, he's a lot more viable to do that, and with Aftershock you can tank really damn hard. You can maybe take Ignite, go for an early kill with the Aftershock damage as well. Grasp of the Undying can work, but because you're ranged, you do get half the health steal, half the health points, half the all that stuff. It's not particularly amazing in comparison to Aftershock. Guardian is a thing. In the one Jungle Thresh video I made for the season, I used Guardian. Aftershock is probably better because it only procs when you're next to an ally or when you target them with a spell, so Thresh's Lantern will not work because it's an AoE. And what else do we have for support runes? You might consider going Airy. I've seen some Threshers go Airy. It gives you a little more poke in the early game, and it will shield when you use W, so there's a bit more enhancement there. Because you have infinite scaling souls, sorry, infinite AP from infinite souls, you can get some level of scaling on Airy to get kind of like a double soul scaling on your W, which is quite nice. Offensively scaling is pretty damn low, so I wouldn't really think about using that. Electrocute can be used for some kind of kill lane in bot lane. If you do auto, flay auto, or death sentence, flay auto, or just auto, you'll proc Electrocute and get some nice burst off. If you combine that with someone like Draven or, I don't know, Xayah, then you can get a lot of kind of really strong burst. Combine that with Jhin and get some burst, and then you can get some really nice early kills. Looking over at Inspiration, Glacial Augment can be fun, but it can also be seen as quite overkill because you already have a knockback, a slow, a stun, and a pull, plus a 99% slow on your ultimate, so it's a bit of a waste. You might be tempted to go Kleptomancy because you're a ranged support who likes to poke with auto attacks, but it's really not worth it because your cooldowns are way too high to make good use of Kleptomancy, and you have to use an ability before using it. If you wanted to play a Kleptomancy support, you'd be better off playing someone like freaking Ezreal Gangplank, or Nami. Nami's exists as well. Out of these three, Unsealed Spellbook can be pretty nice because you can swap out your exhaust for an ignite, or the other way around. You can swap out your flash if you no longer need it. In most cases, you'll probably want flash on Thresh. You can swap out to a TP, you can swap out to something cool, and even if you don't swap out, you get 25% summon a spell cooldown, so that's pretty nice if these aren't needed. Glacial Augment's always safe though, and if you want to use that, then go right ahead. As for which one you'd want to go with, on support you're probably going to want Resolve or Inspiration to Resolve. You can also go Domination and take Electrocute to get some AD, and that will boost your damage output. Sorry, your quick burst, and it will give AD for your E ratio, so you get a bit more poke in the lane, get a bit more burst in the lane for that awesome kill lane. Take Ignite as well when you're sorted. If you go Inspiration Domination, let's see how much that gives us. So you'd get 16 attack damage as opposed to just 11, so plus 5 in comparison to taking Domination first. If you take Inspiration first, you probably can do it for these stats. They're pretty nice. But more than likely, you're going to be starting with Aftershock and taking some extra health. If you take Inspiration Glacial into Resolve, then you can get even more health, but then you don't have Aftershock, and it's like, what's the point? So as far as support runes go, that's kind of the high and low of it. There's you could take Comet. It's not exactly very useful because yes, you can get some nice CC off with your abilities, which almost guarantee the Comet, even though you kind of pull them out of it maybe. You don't have enough spells, I'd say, to make really good use of that. So now let's go from left to right, looking at Thresh in other lanes, because we've covered the support runes, and let's be real, you're not on this channel to learn about support runes, are you? So here we go, the ever infamous press the attack. Hit an enemy champion 3 times, and then deal tons of damage, and then the rest of your attacks also do tons of damage. It's good. In top lane, this is really good. You can use it to really kind of win early game very fast, because you're ranged against most melees. They can't do anything back to you at level 1 or level 2. Really good for establishing lane dominance. If you fall behind, it's less good than having a defensive rune, but it's quite alright. Lethal Tempo. Lethal Tempo itself isn't actually that good. Like, compared to Press the Attack, it's not amazing. But if you're playing for the late game, rather than the early game of Press the Attack, then Lethal Tempo can be a nice alternative. Because if you play on Hit Thresh, you get lots of souls, you get a Rage Blade, maybe you get Blade Rune King, you get all this kind of stuff. You'll be dealing really high damage with Lethal Tempo. Of course, as mentioned in the Thresh guide that I made before, if you haven't seen that, please check it out. Description, link in the description. Your stutter stepping is a bit crap with Thresh because of the unique way his attack speed is. So if you want to make use of Lethal Tempo, get into position, stand still, and attack away so you don't lose any attack speed from stutter stepping, because Thresh has some weird interactions with that. Fleet Footwork. Towards the end of Season 7, I was in love with Warlord's Bloodlust, so this honestly would be quite nice. It allows you to have this kind of hit and run in lane. You can go in, you can smack them, you can back away before they can counter. You get some extra sustain, which is always nice because Thresh doesn't have any innate sustain for top lane. It scales with 1 point bonus AD and 0.2 bonus AP. So even if you went full tank, you'd get something from your souls AP. That's quite nice. And works on minions and monsters too. So this is completely viable if you want to use it in the jungle. The heal isn't very strong in the jungle. You'll get like 5 to 10 at the first 2 levels, but hey, it's something. And the Moose Bean lets you kite. Let's look at the rest of the Triumph Tree. The Triumph Tree. So not the Triumph Tree, the Precision Tree. Triumph is really good. You can use it to... Well, it's just really good because when you start getting the kills rolling, you'll get extra gold, which is nice, but most of all, you'll get lots of your missing health back. Excuse me. It's a mute Facebook there. Sorry if I tricked anyone. Presence of Mind is great, but it's not great on Thresh because you don't really have, as I said, your cooldowns are a bit too high to kind of make use of instant spell spamming after getting a kill. Casten, though, I love it when I can. Overheal is was severely overrated at first. I don't think anyone runs it anymore because it's so crap. First of all, the healing rate is pretty low, like 30% of excess self-healing is pretty bleh. 300% of excess healing from allies would be great, but you kind of need allies to give you healing, and you probably won't have that. Not many people are willing to play Soraka right now. It's all about Leona, it's all about, that kind of thing. So next up we got Alacrity, Tenacity, and Bloodline. So attack speed, tenacity, or lifesteal. Now, if you go for the attack speed on hit Thresh, then Alacrity all the way. If you want to go for the kind of the rapid fire cannon burst Thresh, go Bloodline. If you aren't too interested in either offensive stat, then go ahead for Tenacity so you can kind of get your utility off straight away once you queue into a team fight. And for the last one, Coup de Grace, if that's how they said it in the Riot thing, so that's how I'm going to say it. You deal more damage to people with low health. We all loved Merciless or Executioner in previous seasons, so this is the same thing but even stronger. It's probably why a lot of assassins are really strong. When you see them get a little bit fed and they just start to snowball, they'll probably have Electrocute plus this. It's incredible. Cut Down is nice when you have low health, but because we're playing Thresh properly, we will have some health, so this isn't very good. Last Stand, again, we're going to have some health and defense. We aren't. It's not our aim to be on low health, I guess. So the only option there is Coup de Grace. On to the next one, Domination. So Electrocute, as mentioned in the support tree, is pretty good for some extra burst. In top lane, press the attack might be better, simply because I think it has a lower cooldown. Yeah, way lower cooldown. Let's compare. Press the attack is 30 to 120 bonus adaptive damage, so it doesn't scale, but you get the 12% DPS damage as well. I guess if you want to go burst, but you also want the lane presence, then Electrocute is good. Electrocute or Fleet Footwork. It's pretty good. It's quite nice. I don't really use it because there are so many more interesting runes. But hey, it's a safe pick. Thunderlaunt was a safe pick before. Nothing wrong with Electrocute. Predator's been buffed recently, so a much more forgiving cooldown, though it's still a very high cooldown. As you can see, you deal extra bonus damage scaling with your AD or your AP on your next hit. So for a burst build, this can be... It's like a safer option than Dark Harvest because you don't have to scale it. You don't have to, you can have it from quite early on once you get boots. After, what is it? Starts the game on cooldown, doesn't tell me how long it is though. But yeah, you can get some pretty nice stuff for that. You can use it to position for a flay, you can use it to position for a death sentence, or you can just go in for some kind of cheesy one-hit kill. But chances are you're going to prefer the next option. I'd still consider it though, it can be fun. Dark Harvest is the one-shot dream. Late game, especially once you get past 150 souls on Dark Harvest, and you get a decent amount of AD under your belt, maybe some lethality, because you'll have physical damage on Dark Harvest. Lethality becomes even stronger on Thresh rather than being quite crap last season. You can actually 100-0 someone whilst playing a sensible build. You don't need to go like 6 Infinity Edge in order to do that anymore. Of course, Dark Harvest, it has some lane presence. When a cannon minion comes up, you can take a soul and give him a quick jab, give him a quick poke. But it's not... Early game, the presence isn't exactly all that, isn't too big. Compared to press the attack, Dark Harvest will lose out massively in the early game. So I'd take it if you're able to use it. If you're adamant that you want to use it against an oppressive lane, like I suppose Fiora, then go ahead. It's up to you at the end of the day. It's a very nice rune for the late game, but late game sometimes doesn't happen. So you have to bring that into consideration as well. On for the smaller runes, we have Cheap Shot, Taste of Blood, and Sudden Impact. So Sudden Impact, if you max your Q and you take some CDR, you can Q really often. The only thing is, I can only see myself doing that as AP Thresh, because then you want to max Q so you have more damage, and W doesn't really benefit from AP. But more often I'd max W before Q. If I take this, I'll be maxing Q before W, because then you get amazing chase potential, and then you can get that extra lethality. But it's another thing, because yes, lethality and Magic Pen, having both is amazing, because this one isn't adaptive, you get both. So it will give you quite a decent amount of damage. But in most cases, your Q's going to be on a high cooldown, and it's your only way of using it, so it's not that good. But don't write it off. If you want to have that kind of game plan, go for it. Taste of Blood is sustain for top lane on a champion who doesn't normally have sustain. Pretty good. There's nothing wrong with this. This is a really nice defensive mastery. So it's either take this against lanes that you wouldn't use this on. Cheap Shot. Cheap Shot, because you got so many things which impair movement, you'll often get this bonus 3 damage off. So it's great for that little offensive edge. If you want to go up against someone and really dominate them in lane, then go ahead and take Cheap Shot. If you're up against someone who can outtrade you every time, though, probably not worth it. And against people who poke you a lot, probably not worth it. You'd rather have Taste of Blood. Next up, we got Zombie Ward, Ghost Power, and Eyeball Collection. I see some people use Ghost Power, it's kind of cool, but Zombie Ward tends to have the edge in usability. You don't have to sit in a bush for like 2 seconds to use it. You get extended vision, which is nice, means that you can be more aware of ganks, and since you're fresh, you can't really avoid ganks very well because you have no dash. Quite useful. Eyeball Collection will give you more damage, but how many wards are you seriously going to be taking out from top lane? Or mid lane or jungle? Maybe. If you can see yourself doing that, go ahead. You get 20 eyeballs, so 12 plus 6, 18 AD with Eyeball Collection not maxed out. But that's a lot of eyeballs, so I think Ghost Zombie Ward is probably the best go-to. If you have reasons to use the other two, then your reasons are yours and usually are based in some kind of strong sense of game plan. So next one, Ravenous Hunter, Ingenious Hunter, and Relentless Hunter. My choice will always be Relentless Hunter, because positioning is everything. Positioning means flay, positioning means Q, positioning means last hitting that AD carry for 100% of their health. Ingenious Hunter, we don't have many actives. You might have Randuin's, you might have Right to Glory. If that's part of your game plan from the start, then go ahead. And Ravenous Hunter, we don't really we aren't scaling our abilities very much, so healing a percentage of it isn't exactly very useful. Moving on, the Sorcery Tree. This one is quite fun. So we've talked about Summon Airy. It has been nerfed, so the damage side of it might not always be the best. It has some good application from support. It's probably what I'd use as AP, either that or Electrocute, but it's nice in an early game. It gets you a lot of poke damage, and kind of like Press the Attack can be a nice oppressing force in lane. Quite fun, but nothing much to say about it really. Arcane Comet, we've talked about it. Your displacement abilities may make it easier for the enemy to dodge the comet, because it does take a while to come out. I haven't tried it, and I wouldn't recommend you do either, because I have a really sad suspicion that your Q will pull them out of the comet before the comet lands, and your E will take them a good distance away from the comet before the comet lands. So it's not I don't think it would be particularly useful. Phase Rush. So with 3 attacks you get move speed and no slow resistance because you're ranged. Not particularly useful. Positioning is key, but there are better options for that. And kind of positioning going into combat rather than positioning in combat is what we aim for here. But hey, if you want to take secondary sorcery, let's look at what we got. Nullifying Orb is always a good choice, because when you're up against an AP champion, or the enemy has an AP jungler who will gank you, or an AP mid laner who's going to roam to you, or even a fed AP support, it just gives you that extra edge. Mana Flow Band, we don't use that many abilities and they don't have that much of a high cost, so it's not exactly the best thing in the world. But Ultimate Hat can be nice because the box is a very strong ability, and sometimes you just can't get CDR. I'm not building Essence Reaver very often now because I'm building Frozen Mallet instead. And in the on-hit builds I almost never build Nash's Tooth, so CDR is quite hard to come by, meaning Ultimate Hat has even better synergy. Context. Ultimate Hat will scale multiplicatively with regular CDR, so in a kind of one or the other situation between Ultimate Hat and Cosmic Insight is better on, say, Castin's Ultimate in terms of lowering the cooldown, because that one's 5% additive. 5% additive with 40% CDR is better than 15% additive with 40% CDR. Sorry, 15% multiplicative. Yes. Transcendence, a very good mastery because we like CDR. What were we just talking about? And each percent of CDR exceeding the limit will be converted to an adaptive bonus of 1.2 attack damage or 2 ability power. Meaning, even if you do build CDR, this is still really good. Overall, pretty solid. Nothing wrong with this one. Celerity, movement speed. As we said, movement speed can make a big difference, but there's little to say about that. You won't have much bonus movement speed. Maybe you'll take Deadman's Play, but beyond that you won't really have much, so Absolute Focus. We like to get that first poke off in Burst Fresh from high healths, without retaliation, so it's really nice for getting extra poke. Yeah, I like this one. If you do go sorcery, then sure. Scorch would be great if it worked on auto attacks. It doesn't, so it's not the best. It is some early game damage, so nothing wrong with that. Water Walking is great for roaming, it's great for being a jungler. If you're a jungler, then by all means, if you want to take this, although you probably won't be speccing into the Sorcery Tree, it's nice. Gathering Storm, games aren't very long, so I tend to avoid this mastery. But it's free AD, it's free stats. If these two aren't working for you, take this one, if you are going sorcery first for some reason. Resolve, here we are again. We've talked about these three. But let's talk about them offensively. So Grasping the Undying, it does a thing. It's quite nice for sustain, I guess, but again, you get half benefit. And if you're up against another top laner who's using it and is melee, assuming they have some kind of gap closer, they'll be out damaging you as far as Grasping the Undying is going. Aftershock, very good, the best of the three. Guardian doesn't even count because, Guardian's okay in jungle. Guardian is okay in jungle, I'll admit that. But Aftershock might be better. The haste on Guardian is why it's good, because then you can haste each other, get into range of Q or E. Pretty good. But Aftershock, the resistances early game are insane, and then even 30%. And since we got infinite scaling armor on Thresh, that's really good. The explosion is also quite nice. That scales with your maximum health, but the armor bonus will scale with your armor and magic resistance, of course. So yeah, it's pretty good. Aftershock, if you're going into Resolve, you'll probably take Aftershock. It's good because it means that you can kind of really go ham on enemies who you'd normally just kind of have an advantage against. You can just get into their face. Maybe it's a ranged character. For some reason, I thought it was Ziggs top lane, and they couldn't do anything because I had Aftershock. Not only that, but they couldn't do anything because I was in their face, and, well, yeah. But yeah, the resistances, they really do. They're just so awesome. Aftershock is great. Looking at the rest of them, Unflinching, not the best because we aren't using that many summoner spells, I suppose. We have Flash, which we save for good moments, and Teleport, which we save for good moments. Not the best. Font of Life, great in support role. I don't know if this works on yourself. Even then, even if it does, it's still contesting with Demolish. I always call it Siege Master. It's a really, really nice ability which will help you take down turrets and gives you more reason to build health so you can take down these turrets faster. Because pushing, especially when you play on Hit Thresh, it's not exactly the best thing with that you can do. Your damage on turrets is usually really low because you're relying on hit damage like Wit's End. So Demolish is a very solid mastery to take in these three. Iron Skin, Mirror Shell, and Conditioning. Conditioning is obviously the late game option, which can be really, really good. But the early game is kind of what matters a lot of the time. So if you're in a really easy lane, Conditioning can be cool. Or just one where you know you'll win and you need this late game armor. Because Conditioning gives you the bonus 5% increase all the time on both resistances, as opposed to these two, which are basically the same, just for armor and magic resist. I'll explain both. It says that when you'll get 5 armor or 5 magic resist, and then you'll get 5% increase of that stat for 3 seconds when you heal for at least 20 health. And I believe this does factor in lifesteal. This does factor in Doran's Shield's regeneration when you get hit, and then Doran's Shield gives you that regen. So I think health regen counts as well. So once you kind of get health regen, let's say you buy Spirit Visage, you'll be getting this all the time, I think. So that's pretty cool. Correct me if I'm wrong. But most often I'll be using Iron Skin, because most people are AD in top lane, and you want to have that extra armor to really kind of not die, because they can get really aggressive, and then you want to have the defense. If you're in jungle, Iron Skin is very good, of course, because now you're you're dying less to jungle monsters, and that's nice. Overgrowth. I've yet to see really impactful application of Overgrowth. 0.2% maximum health might sound awesome, but every 8 monsters or enemy minions that die near you, yeah, you can see why it works, because you want to be near these minions anyway to get souls, but I'm not sure if this is enough of a stat increase. It can be nice though, if you want to be really tanky late game, though it has some other runes to contest with. Revitalize, not the best on you, actually, because we don't have any heals, so no. Second Wind though. When you get hit, heal for 4% of your missing health. Sustain. Sustain for a top laner who doesn't have sustain. This is why this is a really good option. So if you're up against someone who's going to be poking you often, or just, anything like that, Second Wind. Otherwise, Overgrowth. Moving on to Inspiration. My personal favourite tree, although it's not actually very good on Thresh, we've talked about these three, not very... Glacial Augment can be really nice in the jungle, because that's more CC. Very much overkill, but if you land the auto attack slow, you can then close in for a flay slow, and also these slows will help you get your death sentence. You get less application, you get less effectiveness of Glacial Augment because you are ranged, but ranged slows are a thing, and that 20% slow will help you land your other stuff, meaning you get a good gank off if you're playing jungle. If you're playing top lane, it's extra utility because you really want to kite someone. Let's say you're playing against Nasus. Anything like that can be alright. It's up to you, I guess. Unsealed Spellbook, you can use Kleptomancy. We're not even going to talk about that. That's useless on Thresh. Unsealed Spellbook can be okay. You can get some nice cheeses off, but Thresh isn't particularly good as that because his early game damage. If you play him now and you want to have early game damage, you need press the attack. He hasn't really got innate damage that you can use Unsealed Spellbook to cheese with. Not only that, but you kind of need flash throughout the game, so yes, it will lower the cooldown, but you're probably better off something else. If you're going to take anything from here, unless you've got some nice game plan with Unsealed Spellbook, just go Glacial. As for the next ones, Hex Flash. Hex Flash is thought to be absolute trash because it lets the enemy know when your flash is down, it takes forever, and it's not these two. So Hex Flash doesn't really have a lot going for it. If it fits your game plan, don't let me stop you. Biscuit Delivery, sustain for a top laner who doesn't normally have sustain. It's also sustained for a jungler who doesn't normally have sustain, which is really good, and I don't need to explain why that is good. Perfect Timing is a stopwatch. Now it's not just that you get a one-time stopwatch to avoid the one kill from the assassin, that's good, but it's also good because it can help you build into Guardian Angel faster, and that's what most people use this for. It's really good if you want to do that. If you want to do that, take this. It's really good. Magical Footwear, my personal preference when it comes to these runes. I love it. I love just not having to worry about boots, so I can actually buy other stats whilst I am defensive in lane or aggressive in lane or whatever. And boots, I don't have to spend 300 gold, and I'll get even better boots later. Really nice. Futures Market, you can rush your key items faster. You can get rapid fire cannon faster. You can get some armor faster. It's quite nice. I think either way, it's about kind of getting something faster because you're saving gold. Magical Footwear will kind of save you 300 gold because you don't have to buy boots. Futures Market will save you... It doesn't actually save you gold, but it just gets you somewhere faster. This will boost you... This basically gives you plus 300 gold because you're not having to buy boots. This essentially it doesn't give you gold, but yeah, you'll have about 200 by about 7 minutes. So you get like a plus 200 on your first buy, which you then have to pay back. But yeah, you can see why Futures Market isn't an attractive option to some people. I am actually decently fond of it, but it's quite nice. Minion Dematerializer. Honestly, Thresh's Wave Clear, when you build him to Wave Clear, isn't that bad. If you want to use it, go ahead. I thought about using it once so I could split push harder, but it hasn't really had too much practical use, so meh. Cosmic Insight, damn good mastery. Probably what you're going to use. I don't need to explain it. It's cooldown reduction. Thresh likes cooldown reduction. Approach Velocity, quite good considering you have a slow on your E. If you are using Glacial, it's a good combo as well. And also gives you movement towards champions who, allies who have been impaired as well. So you can get in faster. I don't know, range 1,000. Okay, the range isn't actually... Never mind, that's a moot point. I was going to say that this will help you get to someone to lantern them faster, but it doesn't really because the range is only 1,000, and I'm pretty sure the lantern has about 1,000 range anyway, so not particularly useful. You can use it to kind of get in and death sentence save someone instead of lantern saving, so I guess there's that. Celestial Body, probably good for a support, but no, I don't even know about that because it's all about kill lanes these days. 100 health though. 100 health straight up. If you're against a laner who you can't kill, you can't fuck with them. Let's say Pantheon, freaking Ornn, or Pantheon. Yeah, you can see this being used. It gives you, like, it stops them from killing you. It stops you from getting bursted. It's overall, it's pretty good. So that was kind of the rundown of all of them. Now let's look at the rune pages that I do have. The ones I use most often are this one. So this is Dark Harvest. We run Dark Harvest for obviously the one hit dream. Cheap shot to get some extra damage in lane for harassing. You can alternatively take Taste of Blood if you know the lane's going to be bad, because you can change this in Champ Select. Zombie Ward's just generally good vision, and Relentless Hunter for positioning. Triumph is always good, and Bloodline for the lifesteal. Alternatively, you could take Resolve, you could take Iron Skin, and that'll give you some extra armor against an oppressive laner. You could take Demolish, so you could split push harder and get some... Well, not even just split push, just pressure your tower, so the enemy can't really screw off. The other one I use most often is Press the Attack, because as we know, Press the Attack's pretty broken. I'll use this on hits, so you can use Press the Attack, Triumph, Alacrity, Coup de Grace, because that's just nice. That's just some nice on-hit kind of stuff. This is a very straightforward rune page. This is probably what most people run these days when they're playing AD carry and whatever, because it's just straight up damage. Yeah, not much to say about it. Currently I've specced into Resolve for the Iron Skin and Demolish. Again, it just gives you that pressure in lane to pressure the enemy's turret so they can't go anywhere and roam. Iron Skin helps you absorb minion damage, helps you absorb enemy damage if they're an AD. It's really good. You could alternatively go with... There's not much else you'd want to go with. Maybe Inspiration. Lethal Tempo. So the exact same thing with Lethal Tempo, because Lethal Tempo can give some amazing DPS late game. But Press the Attack in most cases is just better because you need the early game. Aftershock. Another rune page I use quite a lot. So we got Aftershock, Demolish, Iron Skin, Second Wind, so we get some extra sustain in there as well. It's very good for just kind of berserkering down on an enemy, just blitzing them down. And then when they're dead or when they've screwed off, you can demolish the turret or they've roamed somewhere. It's also nicely defensive, because if you flay someone away, you'll get the Aftershock resistances as well. Yeah, overall, nice defensive lane. We've got Bloodline and Coup de Grace, because I think I was playing this as a burst. With Aftershock, you can go either burst or attack speed. Because Aftershock is very much an all-in kind of mastery, it makes more sense to go attack speed, but I wanted to try it last time I used this rune page. We got Glacial Augment, so this is okay for the jungle. We got Perfect Timing for an earlier GA. We got Magical Footwear because it's nice. Cosmic Insight because it's nice. And then Demolish, Iron Skin. This can be... this will give me more health, and health is good. Health is good for the lane. You can also pick up 20% attack speed by going here, and then you can pick like Alacrity and Triumph. Or actually, no, screw Triumph. Get Alacrity and Coup de Grace, or Bloodline Coup de Grace, because you might be going burst. That's so you can get Rapid Fire Cannon Glacial Augment, which is nice, really nice. And then we got Predator. I've never used this one. I plan on using it soon so I can test it out. I've also got Ingenious Hunter because I think that lowers the cooldown of your Predator active because it's on your boots. And if I run Ghostblade, this will work. If I use Righteous Glory, this will work. It's meme-ish. Well, Thresh top is a meme in itself, but hey. There's that, and then there's Airy, which I'm planning to use on an AP champion. I don't actually have an Electrocute page, so I should probably make one. So we got Airy, Ultimate Hat, Transcendence. Absolute Focus. With... Wait, no, it depends. If this is really an AP page, then I want Transcendence. And then Scorch is extra early game damage. And then we got Taste of Blood for sustain and Zombie Ward for utility. And then, yeah, that's it for the fresh runes. If you want, I can do a rundown with the other champions I play, like Casted and Aatrox and whoever. In any case, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll make some gameplay soon. It's just I've had a long week. See you next time.